let's do a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very nice. Gentlemen, thank you very much for that. That was a flawless countdown. I think there'll be no arguments about this. Ladies and gentlemen, you're already welcome for that flawless countdown. This is going to be episode 19 of the Mosby Learning Podcast. That's exciting. It's exciting because every single one of them gets better and better now, and that's, regardless of some of the feedback we receive in our personal and professional lives. This, I am confident, is going to be the best one yet. We're going to dig into a very interesting topic that really... it comes from us on high. I think that's the only way to kind of to start into this thing. Now, I'm calling in from Mississauga, Ontario. My name's Dan Hirt.
And my name's Adam Costakes. I'm calling in from Dallas, Fort Worth.
And it's Eli Berant here from the Great Lakes State. That is Michigan.
That's the only one, really. It's surrounded.
It's the world's high five.
Yes, it's... it is. It's a high five that's being hugged by the largest source of fresh water in the world. It's incredible.
So, Dan, just to kind of step back, do you remember when I was showing you the pictures when the state of Wisconsin was trying to take the claim of that they're the mitten state?
Yeah, a ridiculous claim, but yeah, I remember this, yeah.
And then they did the picture of the x-rayed hand in a mitten that would fit in the state of Wisconsin.
Yes, I do.
The marketing geniuses.
I didn't hear of this. I'm actually looking this up. Mitten envy.
It seems as though there was this ridiculous campaign by some joker in Wisconsin. Yeah, Wisconsin. Yep. Is that what you said?
Yes.
To try to claim the title of like the mitt state.
Yes.
And really, it's a no contest sort of thing.
No, it's a pretty disfigured hand.
It's not even
horrific.
close. I'm looking at the images. It's pretty hilarious. You actually put a mitten on the Michigan side. Totally looks like a normal hand. The Wisconsin one, it does not look like a normal hand.
It's like it's been through a wood chipper.
That's Fargo, not Wisconsin.
That's a callback to episode 18. If you're looking for the show notes for this, you can find them, mosby.ca/019. And we always encourage folks to email us if they have thoughts about this show. I did hear one little piece of feedback this week, unofficial, of course. If you want to make feedback official, mosbylearning@gmail.com. And Adam all he does is watch that inbox. That's the only thing the guy does. It's incredible. That's the only thing the guy does. It's incredible.
If that's all he does, based on what I heard in the last episode, he doesn't do it very well.
Hey, come on now. I know we're
check the old.
Yeah, I know we're going to talk about capabilities a little bit later, and I guess that's not one of my capabilities at all. It is a deficiency. I'll need an action plan for that one.
Okay, so this is going to change the format a little bit for the show today because there was a pretty considerable thing that happened in the industry. I guess as considerable as things that happen in our industry go. The Association for Talent Development, like I said, this came down from on high. They came up with a new competency, or they released their new competency model. And I don't know if we want to talk about all three pieces of it, because there's kind of a triptych. There's like the three-legged stool that you've heard of before on the Mosby Learning Podcast, and this particular stool is made up of, what do we got here? Building personal capability, developing professional capability, and impacting organizational capability. So, Adam, you suggested this, I think reasonably so, as a topic. Where were you coming from on this? How did you hear about it, and why should I care?
Why should you care? So
in any order of your choosing, you take them however you want.
I'll take it audible on it. No, I think it's kind of a big deal for ATD to release this new competency model, because it really kind of talks about our careers and what we do and the competencies or capabilities that we should have. And really, when you line that up to job descriptions, and then really where training and development, learning is going. What really stuck out to me, because I've used the old model just to say, hey, here's things you should work on, and here's capabilities as a trainer you should work on, and here's capabilities as a trainer you should start looking into. What just shocked me after perusing this new model is, yes, there's the three main components, but within each one of those components, there's capabilities, and then there's skill statements. Where it started getting kind of why I wanted to start bringing it up to talk to you guys about is in each one of them, like, for example, the building personal capability, that's one of the poles of our three-legged stool. There's 7 capabilities, and there is a total of 49 knowledge and skill statements.
That's an average of 7 each, if my math is correct here.
Wow, that is pretty good. But hold on,
I did all the numbers beforehand.
Developing professional capability has 8 capabilities and 71 knowledge and skill statements, and then there you go. Thank you for keeping.
It was a guesstimate.
It was a guesstimate. Thank you for keeping me honest on it. 189 knowledge and skill statements. And so my first question to you, before we kind of dive into maybe some of the actual capabilities that are listed on there, do you think that's too many?
Mr. Berant, as your kind of a returning guest host, I'll kick this over to you first. How many so if I can rephrase the question, how many angels can dance on the head of a pin?
Yeah, it was this was a heavy list, and I have my own thoughts on it. Adam, I don't have any experience with the last model to contrast with this one is, and what I see this as after taking it is, number one, it's to show where you're shine the light where it hasn't been seen a lot, right? So see some of your things that you can't really shine the light where it hasn't been seen a lot, right? So see some of your things that you can't really do.
Well, and just to be clear, Eli, because so we've talked about the model, and I don't know if we talked about the assessment per se. So the model shows us, if you go to the ATD website, I think it's just tdcapability.org. You can go there. You can look at the competency model, or it's not a competency, I'm sorry, the capability model, and you can also rate yourself against each one of those, well, about 150 statements. And you can see where you fall, and sorry to jump in there. I just wanted to make sure people could do that. They could play along, because if they had 45 minutes to kill that wasn't listening to the Mosby Learning podcast, you could probably do at least half of this assessment.
Yeah, and then to put it in perspective, Eli, since you weren't familiar with the previous one was
that sounds like a dig, by the way.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10 was 10 capabilities with 6 foundational competencies. Exponentially in what learning and development and what trainers need to know, or instructional designers, or that we kind of put into our capabilities and what we do.
And you kind of I found this assessment humbling, to say the least. Also, it kind of the phrase already has been used, from the top down, and that's kind of where this it's this. I felt like this is a way to say, hey, here's where your deficiencies are, and I'm waiting for. This is the first time I signed up for ATD for any of their materials. I'm waiting for them to say, hey, you scored like junk on this. Here's some classes you can take for $500 a pop that can probably help you with this.
Yeah,
that's what I'm waiting for. This sweeping.
It's kind of funny you bring that up, because when I showed this to a couple people at work, just at a high level, I'm like, hey, this came out, check it out. That was
for $500 a pop that can probably help you with this.
Yeah,
that's what I'm waiting for. This sweeping.
It's kind of funny you bring that up, because when I showed this to a couple people at work, just at a high level, I'm like, hey, this came out, check it out. That was the response that I received it looks like they're trying to sell something.
Tony Bingham, man, he's building the empire.
It is.
That's with 150. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, we keep using that number. It's more.
This is revisionist history.
It's more than that. I was just using. I trusted your number, Adam. But it just seems like with everything and everything. I mean, you even look at, down to you look at any form of learning right now. Everything's growing, and getting more complex, but is it getting better, right? You go all the way down to like the public school model, right? They're adding all these non-teaching positions, and it's not capabilities, right? Is it making the end product better? And the first one I thought that it starts you out with in the personal capabilities. I think that's a good one because that's where all training and good trainers, especially those that are in front of people, are. That's where that's your foundation, right? So that one kind of sets you up. And then as it moves into developing professional capabilities and organizational capabilities, that there's a distance between your in-classroom trainer who's delivering material, who's doing webinars, and then moving to that professional capability where they're really schooled in the learning sciences and the stuff, the higher level, the 201, 301 stuff, and then you get into the organizational piece. That's for training managers. Yeah, that's not your frontline trainer. So to score a trainer across all these three boards, I think is not. I don't know if it's fair.
And what we need to keep in mind, because I scored like shit, so what we all should probably keep in mind is that we all start at 0 across everything here. Yep. And any chunk that we've got out of there, I was talking to somebody today about how long kind of my story into L&D. So I've been around it for about 9 years, and looking back, it's like, holy hell, that's good. But then, you see people that have been in it for 40 years and they know their stuff. So we're the only people that I think would score on this are like astronauts, because they need to be expert mechanics, they need to be psychologists, they need to be physicists, they need to be they need to be everything, not just for like one aspect, but they need to be everything. So they're the only type of person that would score well across the board here. And those have to be, 80-year-old astronauts that have done everything for the past 60 years. So I've done everything for the past 60 years. So initially it feels like we're not passing because we get these percentage scores of 30 so I have my best one, the building personal capability, and I'm not going to ask you to tip your cards there, Eli, if you don't want to, but 43 was my best score overall. And some of these things I scored, if I could have scored 0, I would have probably scored 0. I think I got a 6 on 2 of them, 6%
Dan,
on a couple of these things.
What was the 43 on?
Building personal capability.
The overall personal capability, did it break down into the capabilities after that?
Well, then you've got the individual statements, and I can take a poke at.
I don't think it really scores you in individual statements, does it?
Yeah, within building, just to give you guys a peek behind the click here. Yeah, building personal capabilities is broken down across 7 or 8 things. 7 capabilities. Actually. Yeah, communication, emotional intelligence, and decision making. Emotional intelligence and decision making. Collaboration and leadership. Cultural awareness and inclusion. That's one thing. The project management piece is next. Compliance and ethical behavior, and then lifelong learning, which was my highest score. So the thing that doesn't actually require any sort of professional competency, lifelong learning. Did he have a great attitude? I did well on that.
Good job.
Thank you.
And I think knowing you a little bit on this one, I would say, so let's say that I thought I was like a 1.5 or a 2.5. I would round up. I'm guessing you would round down.
Yes.
So I scored just a touch higher than you, because I think you and I are pretty darn similar when it comes to this lane. Yeah. So I think that was the difference. Like if you were scoring a 2.5, you would go 2, I would go 3. So I scored just a little bit higher than you on this one, but I think we're right in the same groove.
Well, that goes.
So I scored just a little bit higher than you on this one, but I think we're right in the same groove.
Well, that goes to show the validity of this exercise too, because if you approach it on a good day or a bad day, you're going to score very differently. And again, what does it really mean? If 0 is you've never heard of anything, and 100 is you know absolutely everything. If I got 43, that's not bad. Like, that's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? Now, some of these things, I might have got a 13% on this is cultural awareness and inclusion, which is strange because I've worked in Toronto for probably 4 years of my career, and I seem pretty aware of other cultures. But who knows? Who knows? Developing professional, like it doesn't matter what it is. Like, and then you had highlighted that some of these things are for not just managers, but like maybe chief learning officers, that they need to know this stuff. So I don't think there's any reasonable person that should expect to do well across the board here. And that's the only way that I'm willing to look at these numbers.
There was some, I texted Dan when I was going through it, like there were some that just were word salads. Like, let me go.
Pull up a couple. I've got a couple too. So you know what? Since Adam, so now hang on, because Adam, he has these wonderful ideas, and this is a great idea to go into this. But he's a busy man, and I don't want to poke at that at all. He's very busy. He's got a job. He's got a family. Unlike myself and Eli, and so he didn't get a chance to do the assessment.
He gets great at arithmetic.
Yeah, that's right. That's he's been practicing that. So why don't you pick a question or two, and we'll just give him we'll ask him to rate himself on a 1 to 5 for that particular word salad question. I always, as a kid, word salad question. I loved word salad sandwiches.
Word salad. Okay. What is your skill in using logic and okay, let me go tell you what category this is from. This is from the emotional intelligence and decision making.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Why did you pick that out of all the ones to pick?
So 1 is little, 2 is limited, 3 is consistent, 4 is advanced, and 5 is exceptional. Which, if you click 5, your computer should blow up.
It really should.
So, skill in using logic and reasoning to identify the strengths and weaknesses of alternative solutions, conclusions, or approaches to problems.
That's a first read too. Nice job.
I was going to say I fail to see how that's emotional intelligence.
Well, that's why you suck at emotional intelligence. That's
right. But and understanding the impact of solutions, I would say I'd rate myself very good. If it was more on the emotional intelligence side, there's none.
In the same way that whenever Gibbs brings up her 13,000 LinkedIn connections, I refer to that as dubious. I would state that I think it's dubious that you understood the question on first read, having not seen the words. I have gone through these questions sometimes twice and 3 times to be like, what the hell are they asking? What am I trying? Because I mean, these are nutrition dense sentences. You know, there's not a lot of sugar in here. Yeah, they sure are, man. So here's one, and this is yellow.
I got another one
what
too.
This was from. All right, I'll throw one out there if I may.
Go right ahead.
Skill in conducting analysis of systems to improve human performance. For example, determining how organizations learn. All right, I'll throw one out there if I may.
Go right ahead.
Skill in conducting analysis of systems to improve human performance. For example, determining how organizations learn, closing knowledge or skill gaps, and addressing human factor issues. I gave myself a 1 on that.
That's rough.
Well, and I probably read it 3.5 times.
I just had to read this one again. The one I got zeroed in for next. This one again from the same exact category from the question I just read, or skill that I just read. Knowledge of techniques and approaches to learn and or demonstrate resilience. For example, meditation, mindfulness, and perspective taking. What the?
Yeah, and I know Dan how he feels about mindfulness and
so I finished
and this isn't part.
Yeah, it's so I'm pro mindfulness now. I'm kind of learning a little bit more. I finished that book. I feel good about that. I'm making better decisions. I'm sitting quietly better. But
Naval,
yeah. I don't know. And some of them. So, and I guess we're being rather bitchy and we're nitpicking at this, but I think that it does definitely. There's a couple things that we brought up that I think are important. That of course, ATD is, I would probably say, successful at helping people skill up whatever they got going on. And they're also in the business of upskilling people. So I think that these are done as percentages. They're put and displayed in a way so that you maybe err on the side of you're deficient as a professional. Because I'll tell you what, if I brought this report card to whoever I happen to report to, they're not going to be impressed as a professional. Because I'll tell you what, if I brought this report card to whoever I happen to report to, they're not going to be impressed until they go through learning. Yeah, well, until they go through all 150 statements and say, well, I don't know, maybe it's not so bad. But yeah, first glance, it's not a pretty picture. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, it seems like it was written very scholastic versus very real world.
Exactly.
Right? And
I said a highbrow.
Yeah, it's highbrow, but it at least in our business, and I mean, Eli, you're in a different business. You know, we all work at different places and whatnot. It doesn't seem.
No, you guys are in the same business.
Well, same, yeah, but it doesn't seem relatable to the business world, because even when I'm looking at certain things, as far as I was glancing at instructional design, you know, some of the stuff, right? Instructional design models, yeah, I get that and whatnot, but I got in here of skill in designing blueprints, schematics, visual representations, and learning and development solutions. For example, wireframe storyboards and mockups, and I get the wireframe storyboards and mockups, but the way they've worded these things to do, I think it gets a little bit confusing.
Yeah. You know, I was talking to somebody today about the kind of the various paths to a couple interesting conversations today that I'm not going to tell you about. But there was, you know, I was kind of breaking down the different paths that people find their way into a training role. And a lot of people are essentially, they become a subject matter expert who kind of is relied on to share knowledge. And Eli, I think that's your story, where you know, you got good at doing the thing and you got good at explaining how to do the thing, and then you ended up as a living explaining to do the thing. So you became a trainer through the role of a subject matter expert. Right. And if you take somebody that's from the line of business and hold them up against this, it's like what would you even be doing that for? It's not going to make any damn sense. So you wonder what the actual applicability is to. Now, you know, I guess I say it's really what this thing is measuring, the entire industry. Right. You know, everything, every single facet about it, all 150 facets of the L&D industry. So I just don't think that it's sensible to hold this as again, expect more of ourselves than maybe the numbers that we're getting here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I'd like to go through some of the actual capabilities from a high level. Yeah. We'll go into skill statements. And I'd like to get
just real quick, just a reset here. tdcapability.org is where you guys can access this if you want to play along at home. If you want to score at home, you can try it there, see how it goes. And I'll
include,
of course,
good,
that link.
It'll bring you down a bit.
Oh yeah. It's a bit of.
I just got to exceed expectation on my yearly review, and guess what? I scored 20.
I made a little note that says castrated egos after completing this, because let me tell you,
that's true.
Certainly helped. Mosby.ca/019 is where you're going to find at least that link and anything else that we may have in there. And just real quick before we break into those, Adam, because I did have a note earlier that I wanted to just say thank you, because there's a few people out there that we have had as kind of consistent listeners. It's not a big audience yet. You know, we're obviously in the early stages of this. We've only been playing this game for 3.5 months, something like that, 4 months maybe. And maybe it's a minute more than that, but gosh, every single one of you guys that does download and listen to this, and there's, like I said, there's a handful of you, but man, it does my heart good to just see that somebody's listening. And if you guys, like I said, if you have feedback, we'd love to hear that. mosbylearning@gmail.com, and we'll break down all the social media stuff later, but just a big thank you from the entire Mosby family to everybody out there. If you have feedback, we'd love to hear that. mosbylearning@gmail.com, and we'll break down all the social media stuff later, but just a big thank you from the entire Mosby family to everybody out there. Okay, now I want to get out of your way, Adam, because you wanted to talk about some specific capabilities in here and some statements. So what do you got? What do you want to look at?
So what I wanted to look at is, let's start with the building personal capability, right? So in that capability, there's 7 specific capabilities and 49 knowledge statements. Well, I'm not going to bore the audience. I don't think we need to go through the 49 knowledge statements, but I thought we could go through the actual meat and potatoes, the high level capabilities. I'd like to hear your opinion. Is that important for trainers to have? And is it something that really needs to be in this model when you're thinking about the modern trainer or the modern instructional designer, the modern training and development professional? And so from a high level, there's training departments. Number 1, communication.
Yes, what it's important. Think? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's paramount. Yeah.
So what do we do?
Yeah. What's that?
Yeah, that's it. Try to communicate effectively. That's a big
communication.
Chunk of it.
So we're bashing the model, but the first capability we all agree needs to be
there. Okay, all right. That's a very small sample size, but yes, you're right. We'll pump the brakes on the bashing.
I'm just saying. So communication, I totally agree. I think that's one of the foundation capabilities that any trainer, even instructional designer, needs to have. Or even if you're looking at a performance improvement coach, training manager, I think everybody needs to have communication. So the 8 sub skills and knowledge skill statements with that, I get it. How about the next one? This is where I think is interesting. Emotional intelligence and decision making. And then I'm actually going to caveat that with an extra question tagged onto there. Is emotional intelligence and decision making, should that even be together or should that be separate? And decision making. And then I'm actually going to caveat that with an extra question tagged onto there. Is emotional intelligence and decision making, should that even be together or should that be separate?
Okay, I'll say I think it's sensible that they're together, as we are in the business of dealing with humans, because that's kind of what we have to do. And I don't think that you can effectively make a decision without at least considering the human element. And sometimes you have to employ the emotional side of things to help people come to a decision. So I think that it could be argued that you could put them together.
Okay. Do you think that's important for trainers and learning and development professionals?
Well, we do a lot of pitching we've talked a little bit in the past about how training's, it's kind of part of a sales job too, because you're always giving people a value prop as far as, but sometimes you have to actually convince them to do stuff. And I think you do have to tap into that side a little bit. So as a trainer, yeah, I think emotional intelligence is important, but that's because I'm really great at having a really strong emotional intelligence. So I don't know. Eli, tell me I'm wrong, man. Tell me I'm wrong.
I mean, I think the emotional intelligence piece, and depending which organization you are in and how your company is run, that may be new to your organization, as far as recognizing it as something that's standalone. So decision making and the people part, everything you said up there, Dan, if you take out the word emotional intelligence as a recognized thing, is 100% correct. But emotional intelligence to a lot of organizations is a very new thing, as defined
as a concept. Well,
yes.
Yeah, as a defined concept, I would agree with that. But I think that there's been historically people that have navigated those waters, and although we haven't had the labels for it,
right,
we've always thought highly of them.
Right. So I think, it's an important thing. Just the ability to read the room, right? Like to read the room. I love that phrase too. And take the temperature. Read the room or take the temperature of the room is really important. So you've got to have that. But and I think it's more than just. I think there's only like 7 or 8 questions on that really don't pertain to. You're up in front of a group of people.
No.
Yeah.
And what you're doing to do that. So I think it's scoring a little bit different than what a lot of folks would term that reading the room.
Yeah, because when you actually look at the skill statements, what it talks about is knowledge of theories of emotional intelligence, skill in assessing and managing one's own emotional state, skill in identifying personal biases that influence one's own behavior. And I think that's a little bit different than standing in front of a room.
Yep.
Yeah, there's definitely a well, here we find ourselves looking at that whole what's TD's motivation for doing this, but they're putting in a lot of cases, skill or knowledge. The one I'm looking at for this, they all start with either the word skill or knowledge. Now, you don't necessarily have to have articulated knowledge or, consumed structured knowledge of a thing to get it. Some people just naturally have that emotional intelligence and charisma. They don't necessarily know the names of the people that identified those techniques, or they haven't maybe practiced intentionally those techniques, but maybe they have them. And I found that there were a few pieces in here that were kind of like that, where it's like, well, do I need to know the names of the 6 dudes that came up with this shit 70 years ago? Or do I just kind of need to understand how to create a behavioral objective.
Agreed.
I don't know.
All right. Okay. Well, 2 for 2. We got to keep it in.
Two for two, man. So far, you're doing pretty good. You're making me my words.
I guess Tony's done a nice job on the model. Collaboration and leadership.
Hey, on this article anywhere, or on this page, does it say sponsored article anywhere?
Sponsored content.
What? We're doing a great job of breaking down the model, so ATD should be sponsoring us.
They should. Well,
but then we'd be bought and paid for.
That's right.
I'm fine with that.
It'll be big training.
Big training. Corporate. Big training. The corporate overlord.
So the next one, the next capability here, we have collaboration and leadership. And I don't even think we need to spend on this one. I think... I'll get your opinions, but my opinion on collaboration and leadership is that that needs to be in there, right? Collaboration as a service part of most companies, being in the training department, we're service-oriented. Part of most companies, being in the training department, we're service-oriented business. I think collaboration is critical.
Yeah, I'm good.
And then leadership, if you're in front of, you're directing a class, you're leading.
Yep.
Well, so there's certainly that part of it, and I think in addition to that, there's kind of the managing the team side of it, and that's something that I've never managed an L&D team. I've managed people, when I was working at an office supply chain, not to be named here, but when I was working there, I was definitely managing people. It's different, of course, when you're in a grown-up world of a big corporate organization, but. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so we're on board. Collaboration and leadership.
All right, next one, cultural awareness and inclusion.
Kind of snuck up on us, that one, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
No, what are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts on it? I think it's very...
No, what are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts on it? I think it's very... I think depending upon your organization or what you're doing, I think this one, it kind of needs to be kind of an asterisk, right? I guess I've taken it back as I'm talking through it. I guess you do need to have cultural awareness.
Can't get away from it this day and age.
You can't get away from it because, if you listen to last episode, we talked about the guy at the Chicken Shack place who, sent the person home for wearing the burqa.
Shack. And I don't want to get sued by Chicken Shack. It was Chicken Express in Saginaw, Texas.
So he had no cultural awareness, right? It was a training thing. So, being aware of that is probably a good thing, and I actually saw this little bit different story, but we've done a lot of military training, and it was amazing how many things were wrong in the pictures and the Shutterstock or iStock photo or any one of those places where you get stock photos. The actual military pictures are wrong. The same holds true in cultural awareness, right? If you're putting the wrong pictures and you got to be aware of those things. So I think you need to be aware of it.
A quick note, because I have been, I don't know if it's inappropriately miffed or very appropriately miffed a few times at people taking issue. Man, I'm going to choose my words as carefully as I can.
Here we go. Cultural awareness and inclusion, Dan. Inclusion.
Yeah. You shut the hell up, pal. But the people often take issue with stock photo not representing a diverse enough set of people.
Yes.
And oftentimes that the call is put out that says, hey, designers, like instructional designers, hey, training people, we need to do better at this. And I don't know that that's the appropriate way to go, because it seems like, and again, I'm not done talking, so don't judge it yet, but it seems like the issue photos, because I actually took the time to go look at websites and find out like what does Shutterstock and friends, what are their submission requirements, and you can, like, anybody can submit photos to a lot of these services. So it's not a matter of people using clip art. I mean, like, we have to use the clip art and the stock photos that are available to us, or we take our own. Like, both are great ways to go. But if we don't have a lot of, and it's obviously getting different now because the call's been put out there a little bit, but it's because the photographers are the ones that aren't taking the photos that we need to use.
So it's an accessibility issue. Like
wheelchair ramps,
and a
supply issue. Yeah, that's what I meant. The wrong word.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say it's a supplies issue because it's not available and out there. So I'm not saying that I want people exclusive. I want white people in photos exclusively. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we need to make sure that we source the problem to the actual root, and we don't just bitch to the clouds and say there's not enough mix. It's like, okay, well, fine, well, let's go talk to who we need to talk to and not yell at instructional designers on LinkedIn for this problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I just thought of a great yells at clouds meme.
I just thought of a great business idea. Diversitystock.com.
Well, so the thing is, it swings the other way, because then you get these ones, and there was like root photo or something like that, but then you get ones that are just like, well, just black folks hanging around in a coffee shop or at a conference table, and it's like, okay, that's fine, sure, you're gonna have those situations where those photos are appropriate too, but the point is to have a blend of people in there as well. Right. So, oh god, I can't wait to be canceled. Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Just define Vince Vaughn.
Yeah. Portland's not going to be happy with that one. All right, so let's go to the. Portland's not going to be happy with that one. All right, so let's go to the next one, and this one's self-explanatory. I think is we all agree. Project management. Have to have project management, whether you're in a trainer role or instructional designer or training manager or a coach. Any of those roles, change manager, technology side, LMS, it doesn't really matter. I think everybody is going to need project management skills.
Yeah. And you know what? I really wonder if we were to take all these things here and then we held them up against generic human, how many things that average human being should also have. Because should they have a collaboration in mind? Should they have emotional intelligence? Should they be an effective communicator? Like how many of these things should just a regular human have? Yeah, and
and I'm just going to skip, so we're not going through each one. The last two are compliance and ethical behavior, and the last one is lifelong learning. So when we look at that personal capability one, there's 7 capabilities within the personal capability. Wow, they make it a tongue twister, right? So capability, personal capability, 7 capabilities within that. I think we all agree that all of those need to be in there, but in the same sense, do they really need to be there from a learning and development, talent development perspective, or just a general employee or person, consultant, whatever you are, you should have all these things.
I mean, the other thing too, there was a spark and a dim light bulb just went off. But if you just focus on these 7 capabilities, right, in this particular focus, this is a lot. These are a lot of the things that a performance review goes on.
Oh yeah, I mean from a goal setting
perspective. From a goal setting thing, those are them. I mean that's regardless of your position, right? Like there's not across the board. So these are all things that are encompassed for a lot of the positions out there.
Now, of course, our corporate assessments are somehow tied into our corporate goals. I don't know if we have goals for our industry. What are our industry goals, I wonder?
What do you mean?
I don't know. This is what I'm saying. Our corporate goals, if you have an assessment, they should be tied to your corporate's initiatives, the goals, the things that they want to be. Do we, as an industry, do you think that there's things that the industry should be, or is it just purely reactionary? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's these are maybe deep thoughts.
I see where you're going, but as an industry, right? I mean, when it really fundamentally breaks down is we help people do their jobs. Really breaks down is we help people do their jobs better, grow as individuals. I mean, you can kind of just spitball off of that, right? Like we teach people how to either do their jobs better, perform at a higher level, do something differently or develop a skill set or develop them in capabilities.
You were beating the behavior change drum for quite a while there, weren't you?
Changing behaviors.
Yeah, wasn't it what there was a thing you were like really harping on pretty good like 3 months ago. Is that what it was?
It might be.
Was it
Things
ROI?
fleet very fast.
Ding. Had something to do with HSBC. I don't know what the hell it was.
Oh, I'm sure it
All
does.
right. So do you want to jump to one of the other two?
Yeah, we can jump to the next
Should
one.
we pick your favorite of those two? Because I don't know if we're gonna have time for all three of them tonight at the
I
pace
think
that we're going here.
Let's go into professional capability here.
Okay, that's
Capability here.
Okay, that's nice call. I like that. That.
And so in the professional capability, and this is where I thought it got a little bit interesting, right? Because there is within the professional capability, there's another 8 capabilities and another 71 knowledge and skill statements. I mean, shit, when you really think about that, at 180 knowledge and skill statements, you almost have to become an expert at the model to be able to use the model.
That's fair.
Yeah.
The first one.
Well, so this is what I'm saying. This is everything. This is everything that has ever touched the L&D world at all, at least how it's currently viewed. So, the 6 of these things apply to me. You know what I mean?
And so when I start looking at the 8 capabilities, it starts talking. The first one is learning sciences, and this is where I thought it got really, really textbook, really academic. And so sure, you need to know Now's adult learning theory, Bloom's taxonomy, Gagne's 9 levels of learning. Well, I mean,
should we just take a moment and review Gagne's 9 levels of learning together? Does that sound like a fun thing to do in public? Because I'm not going to do very well at that. No, and I have no doubt that if I knew Gagne's 9 levels, I think is it Gagne? Yeah. Gagne?
Mm-hmm.
Gagne?
That's if I know. Oh, Gagne? Like Gagne and Lacey? Is that But this is what I'm saying. In what each and every one of us does, how much do I need to know Mager's criterion referenced instruction approach? I bet if I knew it better, I might be better at my job. But I've had 3 different jobs in the L&D world, and every single one of them, the boss has said, "You let me know when you're looking to come back."
Yeah.
So I don't know half this shit, but it seems to have gone well for me.
You only don't know half of it?
Yeah, that was a bit of a humble brag, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I thought this learning science one, this one, in the reason I also think this one is really overdone is because the first comment there, knowledge of foundational learning theories of behavioral. Yeah, so I thought this learning science one, this one, in the reason I also think this one is really overdone is because the first comment there, knowledge of foundational learning theories of behavioral. I can't even say the word behaviorism.
You want me to read it?
Yes.
Give it here.
Knowledge of the foundation learning theories of behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism.
All right, what the hell do those words mean?
Close. So close.
Yeah, behaviorism, I get that, but what's cognitivism and constructivism?
Let's thinking through it. So these are the learning theories, and then constructive. I don't know. See, okay, exactly. But that proves my point. Does it matter?
No, because I don't even know what that word means. So,
if we knew them better, we could be more published. We could be in front of more names, and we would have talked at more conferences, which would be super cool. But
we have a podcast.
Joke's on them, eh? Take that, Tony. So are we a result of the dumbing down of society, and these fine people are trying to just desperately cling to an exception, like an academic ideal? Is that are we the dumb kids in class that are picking our nose and eating crayons?
Well, I don't know, but I just looked up constructivism, and education has roots in epistemology. The learner has prior knowledge and experiences, which is often determined by their social and cultural environment. Learning is therefore done by students constructing knowledge out of their experiences.
Man, I'll tell you, every single episode keeps getting me closer to wanting to have a glitch that just makes it go away. These get rougher and rougher sometimes because yeah, I mean, this is. Should we be more embarrassed at saying we don't know some of this stuff? I don't know. I don't know. So maybe we shouldn't.
So maybe we just say Go ahead, yeah.
It's the all these bells and whistles that you never use, right? Like the people who are creating softwares and things of that nature to help with learning and development, they might need to know this stuff, but the front end, the people who are actually delivering it to the people, like it's not in their wheelhouse. Like it's not what they do. It's for two different. Like this is the ivory tower section is where we're at right now.
Yeah, with the learning sciences. So I think the next two capabilities, I agree totally, is instructional design, training, delivery, and facilitation. We totally agree with that.
I wish I did better on instructional design.
What?
I wish I did better on that because I'm an instructional designer, and it's like, I did okay. I did reasonable. So okay, if we're starting at 0, I've made it almost designer, and it's like, I did okay. I did reasonable. So okay, if we're starting at 0, I've made it almost to halfway up.
Okay.
So that's something.
Another spark here, right? So we're talking instructional design now. In the field that we work in, right, that we live in right now, that we're delivering our training, is in the financial sector, right? Roughly financial real estate, that place.
Yeah.
Right. So we were talking.
I've heard it both ways.
There was an article that was tabbed to be talked about that we were referencing earlier about training for the 737 MAX, right? The Boeing.
Yep.
I would say that those behavioral learning sciences probably are more important on training a subject like that than they are about something that, like in the field that we're in. So we're looking at this from a very, very small corner of this whole L&D thing. And for what we do, these things might not be that important. But if these learning sciences may have determined that to train somebody who flew a 737 to fly a 737 MAX, all they needed to do was take some tablet training courses. And
so you're saying they didn't do a very good job either?
We don't know this stuff, and we knew that's not a good idea.
Yeah, we all agreed before the podcast that was a bad idea from a training perspective. Yeah, we would have called that.
So just because you put fancy bells and whistles on it doesn't mean it makes it any better.
Yep.
Right. Which, by the way, that was a horrible idea to train them that way.
Exactly.
Well, we know that now,
and they probably use. I mean, it makes it any better.
Yep.
Right. Which, by the way, that was a horrible idea to train them that way.
Exactly.
Well, we know that now,
and they probably used. Hold on, let's go back. They probably used the. What was it? The
cognitivism.
Gagne's 9 levels of learning. Mager's criterion reference instruction approach to train somebody to fly a plane with a tablet.
With a tablet, yeah. And they got a badge when they completed the course of it.
Flare. Another piece of flare.
And that's actually one of the 8 capabilities is using technology application. So they they actually did fantastic on the capability of technology application.
Did they though?
Well, no, on the application of it, right? But
not really, because if the application didn't result correctly.
Well, evaluating impact, they did pretty bad about.
There was impact.
Well, so this kind of goes back to a lot of these questions. They start with knowledge of principles of user interface design. So just because you have the knowledge doesn't mean you can use it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Okay, let's do a couple more quick ones, and then what if you could do only 2 more, Adam? What would you pick?
I would pick coaching.
Coaching. Oof, that was that was a tie from one of my worst ones.
Which is interesting because when they talk about coaching, and this is why I pick coaching, it's a discipline and practice that is essential capability for any talent development professional.
Ouch.
And it continues to go.
In my face. So I got 6% on that one.
Hey, do you think
as that like that one slice, yeah.
Do you think the same people that came up with this survey are the same ones that created the one that you took for your job now?
the caliper assessment,
Yeah.
the prelim a little bit more. No, those. So okay, so we here. I am a firm believer of transparency and sincerity and honesty. So I scored myself, and again, these are. I run on the cynical side and a little bit more on the negative side. But let's go through some of my sad moments here. Skill in creating effective coaching agreements. I don't know what a coaching agreement is. Knowledge of methods and techniques to evaluate the effectiveness in coaching. Nope, never done that. Skill in establishing an environment that fosters mutual respect and trust with coaching clients. Now, I can figure mutual respect and trust. I don't know how to do that with coaching clients specifically. Skill in recruiting, training, and pairing coaches and mentors. Nope. Knowledge of professional standards and ethical guidelines for coaching. Now, I just assume that means don't sleep with people that you're coaching.
Usually
I
not a
don't
good
know, so I put little. I don't know. And I think part of this is just knowing that I would have did better, but I don't know.
Eli, how'd you score on that?
Not well.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a little bit of coaching in my background, but there was more ones than there were twos, and there were no threes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, and then the other one and last one that I think I just thought was interesting is the one that's a crutch is just evaluating impact. And I know everybody always talks about evaluating impact, and I gotta say it's hard to evaluate impact for some training programs with and I don't know if this is what you guys have going. There's just so much to do, and evaluating impact takes time, where a lot of times the business has already moved on to something else. And there's ways to do it. I've been lucky enough to do that with our team and evaluate some of our courses, but overall, a lot of times in learning and development, they're like ROI and how do we evaluate? And it really never gets done very often. And at least that's what I see. So I don't know if you guys have different experiences with that.
Well, I have a thought that's going to bring us from evaluation to something that I've been kind of thinking on for a minute there. So Eli, I'll kick it over to you because I kind of want to take that for a second and walk down a weird little path. Any thoughts that you have around evaluating impact?
I mean, to me, this is always the most important. Evaluating impact in the very beginning is how does the person who requested the training feel about it, right? And that's the most important thing, right? Because then it's all about that relationship and building that trust, and then there's the actual numbers that come behind it. But a lot of it you don't know, especially again in the sectors that I'm in, right? There's contributing again in the sectors that I'm in, right? There's contributing outside factors, right? That can impact
many variables
that can impact it, that you don't know whether was it the training, was it not the training, was it or was it this event that happened that caused, So evaluating impact, like Adam said, is a pretty tricky rope to cross.
Now, if we were to look at this entire exercise, the last 45 minutes we've been talking about this, and we've scored ourselves, I think sensibly. We've taken our best. We've looked deep, and we said, wow, we're terrible at this. And other things maybe not. But what I'm thinking, if it comes to measuring impact, is TD has just very clearly identified all the places that they can hide, all the places that they can help us move the needle of all 150 elements of this whole program.
I think that one's going to stick around for a while.
Oh yeah, that's a keeper. So this is kind of how it dovetails into something I've been thinking about lately, and just a little peek into my world. Really the only video game that I play is Fortnite, and I think a lot of young men have probably wasted a lot of valuable hours on that game, but it's a form of entertainment. So I always struggle with the whole entertainment. Is reading a book's entertainment, but that seems to be put on a pedestal compared to watching a TV, which is on an even shorter pedestal until you look at gaming, and that's put on the lowest pedestal for some reason. And they're obviously very different formats and mediums, but I was looking at Fortnite through the lens of learning. And I really hummed and hawed. I looked at it and I thought about it. Because they've got a million different things going on in which I don't know that it is. You probably heard it, but maybe you don't know what it is. So a short version of this is you and 99 presumably strangers are all... It's a battle royale thing. So there's 100 people that are essentially dropped on a small island, and the island, at least in the course of that game, probably stays exactly the same. You're on there, and if you try to win, you try to kill everybody else, and everybody else tries to kill you, and there's one person standing at the end of the game. Matches last around 20 minutes, something like that, right? But there's games, there's prizes, there's silly stuff. It's fun. So there's a lot of different game it is well, it's probably the most successful game on record, at least currently. Like there's the most people playing that thing. I'm hoping that fact's accurate.
No,
but I'm
is.
thinking, I was
free.
thinking about that's and they make just gobs of money. What they make like $1.7 billion last year? $1.7 billion last year? Something like that.
Out of control.
Yeah, for a free game. It's incredible. So what I think it came down to was their ability to measure absolutely everything. They track where your player is when your player does certain things. So they keep a meticulous book. They know if you picked somebody up and you carried them 10 meters, they know if you picked a friend up in what's called the storm in the game and you walked them out of the storm, they know absolutely everything. It's unbelievable. And I was thinking about how we can apply this to learning. And one of the issues is, even on a good day, as we just highlighted, it's difficult to measure things. I think a lot of that is dependent on probably the industry and probably the culture, because how many times is it like, yeah, we need this thing. Okay, what metrics do we have? Yeah, we don't really have metrics around it, but we know we need it. That happens all the time. I don't know. I mean, here is 189. I hate to use the accurate number, but there's 189 metrics that now TD has helped us at least identify whether or not they're appropriate for us. We now see them in front of us.
Have we though? Because we don't know what a lot of these things mean.
We could certainly look into it.
Well,
though.
on the ATD on the TD site, which and they're TD now, not ATD, right?
Yeah, I think so.
They say pick the ones that are most relevant to your position, but I still go back to, if you're in learning and development, you should be more well-rounded, and so. Yeah, if you don't know what they mean, is it going to be even functional? Is it going to be relevant for people to actually be able to develop?
You want to talk about well-rounded? I'm under 45% on all of these, so I'm very even keeled around everything here. Yeah, I got a 30, a 29, and a 43 on these various pieces. So, and a 43 on these various pieces. So, I think ideally, we should be a jack of all trades, and I'm not saying a master of none, but we should be a jack of all trades. Actually, there's a podcast that myself and Mr. Eli Berant have listened to recently. The guy had a phrase. He got it from a friend, though, so I can't really attribute it to him. And what was that dude's name?
Naval Ravikant.
Remember? There you go. But he said his friend said to him, "Specialization is for insects," and I think that's pretty apt. I mean. Sure, the people that do just a 30-year deep dive into one small thing, there's absolutely no doubt that they have found something of value in there that they're able to share with the rest of the world. But general impact, I don't know. I think if you spread yourself across a bunch of different things, that you're probably going to be better off.
Well, like Louis C.K. Don't go ahead, Adam.
So I was going to say,
Louis C.K. Don't go ahead, Adam.
So I was going to say, I can use it in my experience, ups and downs, finance, business, everything like that. But, we've had, some ups and downs, and last year, we've had some, reduction in forces, right? And, when you take a hard look at the team and you say, okay, where do we reduce? Where I kind of looked at reducing was in areas where they were on the extreme outs. And what I mean by that is people that had, great instructional design, but that's all they did is heavy e-learning instructional design. In the vice versa side, when I looked at it was like, all I can do is facilitate. I'm just a facilitator. That's all I do. Yeah. I do not do any instructional design. Yep. You give me a script, I read it, and that's it. And so I started looking at, my team. It was one of those things where it was like, if you can't cross over, and I'm not saying like the facilitators and instructors need to be phenomenal instructional designers, but they should be able to make a job aid. They should be able to, do some basic PowerPoints, some edits, and then vice versa. If you're a instructional designer, at least in my world, in when we talk about, different industries and different things, and, there's different ways to organize, learning and development structures. But in our immediate world at the company, it was more needed for even the instructional designers to be able to say, you know what, I may not be the best facilitator, but I could pick it up and do it if I have to.
Yeah. Yep.
And that made them more well-rounded, and then they didn't get caught.
Yeah, it's that's the value prop of a human. That's what that is. If you can provide one specific thing really, really well, that's great. But what happens if something catches fire?
Yeah.
Like, we need to have
thing. But Louis C.K. said a long time ago in one of his early specials that you take a PhD student or somebody who's going for their doctoral, or you take like a 40-year-old garbage man, and the 40-year-old garbage man is going to know more because they have all that life experience versus one person that's been studying one or two things their entire life. So, I mean, having that well-roundedness and being able to do different things and having the willingness, I think, is really important too, Adam. It's not just can they do it. It's, where's the willingness to do that as well.
It's a good point. And I think overall in all industries, so, right, we're hitting it at a different time than maybe a lot of other people in different industries. But I think, when we talk about digitization and technology and just job roles changing, that reskilling workers and changing what workers do today, they need to be willing to say, you know what, hey, I need to relearn something. And that's actually, I think, where talent development can really kind of help is, I think everybody's job is going to be impacted with technology, in the next several years. It doesn't matter what you do. Technology is going to continue to impact what you do. And I think everybody needs to be open to that change. I don't think you can just say, that's all, I'm just an instructional designer doing my long form e-learning, and
those days are gone.
They are. I mean, even a lot of instructional designers. I was just interviewing somebody. They were doing. They're using Rise now, right? It's rapid prototyping is a lot faster than building out full on e-learning longer courses. Rapidly building things versus what they did in the past, and that's where. Micro learning comes in, nano learning, like all these different things, but it has to. I had to throw it out there, nano learning, right? But I think people need to adapt really quickly. Did in the past, and that's where, micro learning comes in, nano learning, like all these different things, but it has to. I had to throw it out there, nano learning, right? But I think people need to adapt really quickly.
Yeah, no, you're right. All right, so I don't think there's too much else to say right now. I think we can. We all seem to be in the camp that if you want to survive in this world, and at least in this discipline, you gotta know a few different tricks.
189.
You can't know one thing.
189.
At least 150. Yeah. That's for sure. All right. I got one more thing to touch on before we hit the road. It's I might hold on to that. I do have a poem though. We'll see. But I got two things. I got a note from Portland here for the last episode, and lest we get through another episode unscathed, and then maybe a poem if there's time. But like I said, show notes. You're going to find the show notes for this. You're going to find the link for everything we talked. Adam, did you happen to check the inbox to see if we have anything waiting there for us?
I did. I double checked.
Okay.
Because I do check it on an hourly basis. I normally will get responses out within about 20 minutes, but. I did not see anything come in while we've been discussing this.
You done messed up, Aaron!
Very good. All right. So the last episode, and I think we knew halfway through that episode we were gonna hear something back from Portland, and I did get this message, Mr. Hirt from the corrections office. Please be aware, your podcast has received a full disadulation for the events that took place during the recording of episode 18 of the Mosby Learning Podcast. This is our first disadulation issued in 2020. This decision is final and cannot be appealed or reversed. In a single episode, you and your co-hosts managed to, and this is a, you look at it listed out, and it's like, oh boy, yeah, okay. All these
went
things
off the
happened.
rails a little bit.
All these things happened. It listed out, and it's like, oh boy, yeah, okay. All these
went
things
off the
happened.
rails a little bit.
All these things happened. It is managed to number one, infer that a male management level employee's female supervisor was accountable for him asking for a hijab to be removed to comply with uniform standards. Now, number 2, rhetorically ask, how often is journalism just a piece of shit opinion article anymore? That might have been me. I can't remember. It's been a week, but okay. So ask that question in a critical time, where the sacred institution of journalism is being attacked. And parentheses here, worth noting: 3 of you read the same article and had wildly different opinions of what it actually said.
That was entertaining.
Well, I think we found different things in the article that stood out to all of us based on the parts of the article that we read. Number 3, advocated for... But number 4, laughed... Oh boy, this technically happened. Laughed at and mocked a presumably mentally ill female who fell into a donation bin repeatedly.
Oh, come on. I can't see why anybody would have any issues with that.
I think I do have to take responsibility for that, but really, she should take responsibility. You're right. Okay.
But did you see the article I sent you though about the other guy?
Yeah, the other guy.
The Hollywood Superman. So
it's a thing.
Eli, you should look this up. Hollywood Superman jumped into a.
Don't look it up. You're just gonna be sad.
No, it ties right in. Everybody needs to look it up.
The guy died. You're gonna be sad. It's not a fun article.
He's a Hollywood Superman. He's been on the Sunset Strip being Superman for like the last 30 years. He kind of looks like not Keanu Reeves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
He looks like Keanu Reeves.
Christopher Reeves.
To a charity thing, like a clothes bin, and died. So it's a common thing with meth heads.
It's a common thing. Wait, common thing with what?
Meth heads. No.
You're fading out each time you say it. Are you doing that on purpose?
I feel like he is. Like he's got an elbow on the button, just like. Okay, so let's just round this thing out so we can get the hell out of here.
Yes.
After we made fun of that lady, so it says you seemed aware during this recording session that the episode would be problematic. Please take your instincts more seriously. FYI. This is interesting. You failed to inform us in your initial paperwork that Cynthia Gibbs has a master's degree in education. Her infractions from the previous episode have been expunged and her records updated. Context is important. So there you go. It pays to have a few letters after your name, I guess. And, we have no letters for this podcast after our names, but maybe after a few more notes from Portland, we will. I do want to thank, once again, I really thank, especially if you made it this far. Thank you guys so much for listening to this show, and I hope... I hope we're bringing ideas and a little bit of levity. Not a ton of humor in this episode, but we're covering this big thing that's kind of relevant to the industry. And I'm really looking forward to this episode getting released, because I think this is. I don't want to say it's important, but this definitely should be talked about. Not necessarily from the perspective of, do we all take this as gospel, but how do we look at our own skill sets, and are we meeting the needs of our business, even if we do score like a wet bag of garbage on this thing? Are we meeting the needs of our business? That's the question that we should be asking ourselves. And could we try a little harder? Consider there too.
I don't know about you, but I counted 150 attempts at humor in this.
You think that's what it was?
In this episode.
At least, conservatively 150. All right, Eli, where do you want folks to get a hold of you?
Great Lakes Fly on Instagram. You can check out my side biz, my passion, and I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Very good. Mr. Costakes, how about yourself?
Just my name at Gmail, or also LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, there he is. All right, you can find me in a few different places. Where the hell can you find me? LinkedIn, LinkedIn, HIRT. Make sure you spell it right. On Instagram, Dan Talks Training. And then on Twitter, Dan Talks LND. ATD. And on YouTube, where we put these episodes now on YouTube, we pull out some of the little segments that are in there. We put those up there too. That's I'm just Daniel Hirt. It's rather formal on YouTube, but there you have it. Now, music for this, which is not formal. I always like this. It's rather formal on YouTube, but there you have it. Now, music for this, which is not formal. I always like this song. This. Yeah, it is. It's interesting. This is the show must be Go by Kevin MacLeod, and you can find his stuff at incompetech.com. But you won't find him on Twitter. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you downloading us, listening to us, and like I say, fire us off an email if you want, or just check us out on LinkedIn. Just connect or on our various social media. Connect to us there. All right, thank you guys again. All right, that's the last time I'm saying thank you. Goodbye. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Eli out. Just pull that mic fist from your face.
Oh, God.